swear every June I end up making at least one YouTube video in my garage. It is way too hot for this, so please consider giving a thumbs up to this video if you found it useful. A little awkward that I'm returning to YouTube after a few months off to talk about a tripod. So if you want to hear a channel update, be sure to stay tuned to the end, find out just what's going on with me. But I want to get right into talking about this, which is the newly announced AD-120 video tripod from Smallrig. I was shopping for a tripod last week, a third tripod for a shoot that I have coming up this week, and Smallrig had just announced this, and there's no information about it on the internet, so I thought I'll make a helpful video in case you're considering purchasing this for a use you might have. I also discovered that the state of the video tripod market is a little strange right now, so I thought we might have occasion to talk about that as well, and then I'll tell you what I think about the tripod and give you an update on the channel. So let's get into it. Smallrig AD-120 video tripod. So I'll start out with a quick run through of the tripod. It's got a very innovative top plate. It's got this button that can be used to adapt on either a standard Manfrotto plate or the Ronin S2 or S3 gimbal plate. So you can take a camera with a plate that's fitted for the Ronin 2 gimbal and place it directly on here, or a camera that's outfitted with a regular Manfrotto tripod plate. Coming down, standard operational arm, pretty good length of leverage. It extends and retracts and can be mounted on either side with a standard arm rosette mount. In addition to standard stepless adjustment for tilting and panning, the tripod also features a 6-step counterbalance adjustment, and we'll get a camera on here in a second and see how the head reacts. This is sold as a kit with the head and the legs. And speaking of the legs, they are a pretty decent looking carbon fiber set. Plastic, all plastic up on top at the top of the leg segments and the yoke. A mid-level spreader with a graduated adjustment, a detachable ground level spreader, which I'll show you in just a second. And I hope that nose is okay. At the bottom of the tripod is set up with a rubberized floor foot that can be removed to reveal ground spikes. Top it all off with a pretty standard adjustable 75mm leveling bowl, and you've got a basic video tripod. What makes this unique in its price point is, of course, these single clamp leg system that allows you to raise and lower the tripod using only one set of clamp levers. So the tripod can go up this high, and with the ground spreader it can go this low, with the important caveat that the ground spreader cannot be used with the spiked feet. One of several quirky caveats that I'll discuss when I'm explaining this tripod to you. For example, there are no stops up here on the yokes that will allow you to get the tripod to a level like this without using either of the spreaders. The spreaders are holding the legs together at all times. But back to the reason that you or anyone is probably considering buying this tripod, and what puts it in such an interesting class is it does this, right? This is what you see in all of Smallrig's marketing videos, and tripods that do this trick are not only highly desirable in the community of video creators, they're also, it's kind of a tight market segment. There aren't so many that have this single lever capability to take a tripod from a great height all the way down to the ground using only one lever to actuate all of the leg segments. So this mechanism was introduced by the Sackler company a few years ago in their Flowtech series of tripods. That tripod has become ubiquitous across video productions of all size, and it carries a bit of a brand name premium to come in at a few $1,000s for a tripod kit like this with the legs and one of their nice heads. Or I think you can get the legs for around $1,700. Sorry, there's an attachment to do this. I don't have it with me. But they've dominated the tripod space with this very innovative mechanism, and they haven't really had competition until about last year, when a few companies have started to come up with their own designs to sort of skirt the Sackler patent, and those include tripods that are now pretty popular, like the YC Onion Pint a Peak. There's one by Suray that I think is called the SVT 75 Pro. And then Smallrig introduced one as well that kind of made a splash as more of like a $400 price point, and there was a big campaign on the Potato Jet channel. I recall seeing that tripod compared to some of the more expensive options where the Smallrig tripod would like break, or there were concerns about the durability of the tripod, and it was generally regarded to be the lower quality, although it is also the lowest price, with those other tripods coming in between $800 to $1,000. The Smallrig tripod, that one was called the AD-120, I think, was definitely on my radar because of the big publicity campaign and the price tag, although I shared those same concerns about its durability. And this year, to be more in line with the competition, Smallrig has released this tripod, the 120, which supposedly has some durability improvements, certainly has a nicer fluid head. We're going to test that. And the one thing that's probably keeping it also at the lower end of the price point, even at $475, I think I paid for this, is the fact that these lever actuators are down here in the midsection, whereas the other tripods have them up top. But when I went to buy it, I realized that the tripods from the competition are not available. The Smallrig tripod has been pulled off the shelves. It's supposed to be replaced with a successor model, an SVS75 Pro, which rather than having lever locks at the top, has got twist locks at the top. So that makes me think maybe they're having some trouble with the patent. And the YC Onion option also unavailable. Not sure if it's the same issue, but if you go to retailers like B&H Photo, it's out of stock. And I believe you can still order it from the YC Onion website directly from one of their warehouses, but their US warehouse also says very low stock. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's a dramatic shift in the paradigm, I think, of how you would look at this tripod, because ordinarily I might say this, if you had a budget of 500 bucks, you know, this would be something to look at. If you have a budget of $1,000, maybe you consider one of the other players. And then if you can afford the Sackler tripod, it's obviously the way to go. But with all of the other competition sort of unavailable, if you have any budget under a few $1,000s, this $500 tripod is basically your only option if you want a single lever tripod system. All right, so now I'm gonna test out the tripod head by spinning the camera around, opening my garage door, and spying on my neighbors. Let's see how it does. Okay, so I've got this fitted up with the Canon C300 Mark III and the EF version 2 of the 24 to 70 millimeter lens. And I'm gonna shoot with the lens extended all the way out at 70 millimeters so we get the most dramatic effect of movement. So I've got a pretty effective counterbalance here at a setting of 3. So again, this goes from counterbalances from a setting of on a scale of 1 to 6. So that tells me that Smallrig has probably targeted the design of this counterbalance to an appropriate level for the price point of this tripod. This is a middle weight of camera that would work well with this counterbalance system. I think the counterbalancing could be a little better fine-tuned with something like a rail system, but again, something a little heavier to a little lighter, such as a DSLR style mirrorless camera setup, would probably work well counterbalanced on this system. And the counterbalancing seems pretty effective. Now, moving on to the panning and tilting. Like I said, this is a stepless adjustment. The panning axis is adjusted here, and it ranges from this, which I believe to be the tightest setting. So this is what panning looks like. This is a non-stabilized lens with the stabilization turned off in the camera, and applying about this much force, and it'll probably steady this out a little bit. Actually, let me just lock down the tilting axis. Okay, so good. It feels pretty solid. Okay, now I'll take the panning dampening adjustment all the way to the loose end, which I believe is this. And I'll tell you why I believe that in just a second. Okay, so we hit a stop there, and now we have quite a bit of freedom to pan. So test out the rolling shutter on the C300 Mark III. And this is the type of result we get. The reason I said believe that was tightening and loosening the damping adjustment is because the damping adjustment is not labeled on the panning axis. So I'm not crazy about that. It is very well labeled on the tilt axis. And so we will lock down the panning axis and try the tilting next. So in this case, I know that the tilting dampening is now fully loose, and we have this sort, again, with the counterbalance on, this much play, and then if we fully tighten, turn that so you can see, if we fully tighten the drag adjustment on the tilting axis, again, we get an affirmative stop, and this is how our tilt looks. So I would probably set this to tilt So I actually wish this had a little bit more drag on the tilting axis. And this feels like about the right amount of drag on the panning axis for a shoot that I would do. And this is how the footage looks when doing sort of a bobbing camera operation. So I'll lock those both down. Locks feel good and secure, and I can pull the camera completely, can pull the tripod legs completely off the ground without operating the locks. And I don't want to test the locks any further than that. So I wish that this could be dampened more in the tilting axis. This does not feel like a lot of damping. And I also wish that the panning axis was labeled as clearly as the tilting axis is, because as it is, you sort of have to be like, I guess righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and guesswork your way into the camera operation. Was this in the shot the whole time? So I guess my final thoughts on this tripod are that, like, it's fine. I think that the $800 to $1,000 price point tripods are probably worth it above this, because this did present me with a lot of frustrations. I'll give you an example. When you go to lower the tripod, you'll do this, and you'll collapse it just like you would in any tripod. You'll open up the levers, you'll drop it down, and it'll hit this. It'll hit the spreader. This happens with the ground spreader or the mid-level spreader. And you'll have to spread the legs apart a little bit and shut it and clamp down the lever legs, or leg levers, and then you've got a closed tripod, right? Not a big deal, but just like, why does it do that? If you want to use the ground spikes, I have to take off the ground spreader before I can pull out the spikes. There is a pretty neat little mechanism that detaches the foot and reveals the spikes, right? That's pretty neat, but it would be so easy for this. No, focus on this. Just to spin back and reveal the spikes. Instead, I've got to figure out what to do with these, right? These things are like a little bit better thought out and work together better on a more expensive tripod. Oh, here's another really good one. I'm going to have my camera on the plate for this tripod and take it out and try to use it on one of my Arca Swiss tripods or some other tripod. And I'm going to try to take the plate off of this tripod, and I'm not going to be able to, because the hex key for the plate is not stored in the plate like even my newer $100 tripod. The key for the tripod plate is stored on the tripod. So just like little things like that, you know, in the aggregate, give the impression in the back of my mind that I'm using a low quality piece of equipment when I pull a piece of gear like this out. And that $100 tripod, this thing, I think is an effective way of assessing this, because this is the thing you buy when you get tired of this. You see that also even though this has a traditional 2 lever locks on the leg segments, I can get it right up to eye level using only one of them. So I feel like that's not such a huge deal. Pans and tilts on springs, but you know, it gets the job done. I feel like if you're used to using a tripod like this isn't like 5 times as good. It's better in most ways. It's a little frustrating that in some ways it's worse, but it's definitely not like 5 times better than this. I don't have any reason to say not to get this tripod. It's a fine tripod. It does the job. It just happens to be the case that as of now in June 2024, you don't have any better options in the immediate price range. You're shooting all the way up toward the Sackler Flowtech tripod. Okay, that's it. For those of you who stuck around to hear a little bit about what's going on with me, because I've been off YouTube for a while, you may recall that last year I went into full-time video production, and so I started a company, very exciting. Lots of cool things happening, big movements, but doesn't leave a whole lot of free time for doing YouTube, either in the traditional way that I started doing it, going out on landscape photography excursions and bringing the camera along to share the experience and promote my artwork, or in the way that many of you have joined to watch camera reviews and maybe little bits of things about photography or video equipment. So it's sort of left me struggling with how do I carry on YouTube to make it a value to you, but also so that it's not distracting me from the full-time video work that I need to do to keep the lights on over my head and the heat on the house and all that stuff. So I have been trying to get sponsors to maintain a positive photocentric photography channel. If you know someone who you think would be interested in sponsoring the channel, please hit me up. I'd love to take like a week off work a month and just make some positive energy photography content, because I know like the core nucleus of people who subscribe to the channel are interested in that. Otherwise, I think I've got some valuable stuff to share about making money with my camera. I'm doing that full time now, about starting a video production company, about being a photographer or a videographer in a small town, because I live in a town of 15,000 people in the Midwest. So, and it's been very tricky navigating making a profitable business here. And so I think I have some things to share in that regard. If any of that sounds interesting, please leave a comment. What would you like to see on the channel going forward that would be of value to you? Gear reviews, money talk, marketing advice, things like that. If you don't have any suggestions, then it'll probably be a lot longer duration between video recordings as I try to focus on building what I'm building with my company. I appreciate your support during that time, and I'll just leave it there. Thanks for catching up with me. Hopefully this was helpful as I pick up other pieces of kit that don't have a lot of readily available information. I'll try to make that available to you as well. But so don't unsubscribe, stick around, but I would like to see something more productive and useful done with the channel. Let me know what that could be. Until I see you next time, you guys keep an eye out and a foot forward, and thanks for watching. Bye.